Hi, we're going to be talking about pinewood derbies again. As always, I love pinewood derbies, so I do a lot with helping kids build cars and along with helping my own kids build cars. I bought a lot of products over the years that are absolute trash, I'll have to tell you. They have been products that just didn't work or that were gimmicky or just had their own idea. So some of the products that we're going to be talking about today, these are kind of the tools I'd recommend if you're trying to be a little bit more competitive. So trying to get more into that district race. You know, you've won some of your den races, now you want to go into your district races. So the first thing is you need a decent drill of some sort. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, just a drill that actually works and doesn't have a lot of wobble inside the head. So something that's going to be a little bit better for that. You're going to be doing wheels on this, and you're also going to be able to do axles if this is all you have. Which kind of brings me to my next thing. It has to be a variable speed drill, one that can change, and it has to be able to be best if you can lock the trigger and adjust the speed. That's kind of nice too. Usually you're only going to find that in plug-in drills, which not everybody has laying around. Next thing that I highly recommend would be a Dremel tool. I think this has improved my race cars more than anything else. Just leave it. M?
Yeah.
Okay. Just so it sits there, it allows you to be able to go up into high RPMs. You're 1,300 on something like this, 30,000 on something like this. So it allows you to be able to do your axles much, much faster. Now we do not want to do wheels on this. We want to do just axles, metal components that we're trying to spin at high speed and polish quicker. So definitely something like this. We usually turn all our wheels at about 15,000 RPMs. Okay? Next thing that I find is probably the most important thing we purchase would be a decent scale. Okay? Something that's going to allow us to be able to go down to a gram count and be calibratable. Meaning that you have the ability to have it tear, which you hit the tear button and that's gonna bring it back to 0, and that's great. But we want to have something that we can actually put a calibration weight on and calibrate it, especially if you're using, we use 3 scales when we do our weighting. That's a whole different video. But we use the 3 scales to calibrate and level the car and balance all the weight on each wheel, except for the front. We balance on the back 2 wheels. So this is a 500 gram weight. This happens to be the calibration weight for my scales. You'll have to look and see, and then I use a simple 5-ounce scale for people that want to say, hey, is your scale calibrated? I can drop a 5-ounce weight on there that's perfect for there. And then calibrate all of them so they all work exactly the same. So I can actually sit there and run my cars with 3 wheels and balancing the weight. So I'm actually balancing weight between the 2. You'll think you have it balanced until you actually set it on there, and then we are talking about micro amounts. That is probably the most important thing to understand. We are talking about doing micro amounts of adjustment. Every little bit helps. The kid that does the most work should win. I'll tell you that much right now. That really is important. A axle bender. Now, axle benders, is this a necessity? No, it just makes it way, way faster to bend axles. So our front axles are always bent, so they're steerable, so we bend them down, and then we have them so we can adjust them so they're steerable. So an axle bender is a really good tool. These are kind of expensive, about 80 bucks. Definitely, this was a purchase that I purchased several years ago, and that was the only thing I bought that year because it was such an expensive tool. So something definitely to think about there. But it allows me to be able to bend axles in seconds, not, grooving them and putting them on a vise and tapping them. And you may not have those items, but the nice thing is I can groove everybody's in the whole pack in 10 minutes. Kind of really makes it nice. Then getting into canted axles. So we run canted axles, meaning that we have the axles are set at an angle in the back of 3 degrees or 2.5 degrees on some of the tools. So a tool like this that allows me to be able to shoot angles in. These are definitely the most expensive ones. These can be very expensive, about $100 to $200. Do you need this for the average Boy Scout race? No. These guys right here run about $21, and they have a 2.5 degree bend. Is a 2.5 versus a 3 going to cost you a race? It could. And it may cost you more in a district race than a pack race, you know, so kind of keep that in mind, or a den race. So these guys just slide right on, and they allow you to be able to drill into the side of the car and make perfect holes that are aligned, okay? You still want to put a clamp on there to make sure it clamps on. Now, some of them are adjustable, like this one's adjustable. This one is made to be a little tight. It tends not to fit on most of the cars. And what you actually have to do is sand the side of the car until it just slides in and then clamp it in place. So it's very snug, which I like. Next item here, a weight, a center of mass calibration tool, basically. We want to balance our cars about 1 inch to 3/4 of an inch in front of the back axles. The way we do that is by setting it on here and balancing the car so when it sets there, it's going to balance right on that 3/4 to 1 inch. So take a car that we've already done, and this car set really close to about 3/4 of an inch. Do I need this particular tool? No, this one's from Maximum Velocity. Really like it. It's cheap. It's like $6. It was an awesome deal. You could literally use a square and do the same thing. You just got to hold it. So definitely a good thing here. If you buy the scale from PineCar, which I actually like, I don't like a lot of products from PineCar, but I like their scale. It comes with this go no go tool, which basically means I can do all the cars that come up to me. I can sit there and I can level them off. Are they still within parameters when the car was purchased? And is it going to go on the track without dragging? So I can look underneath it and make sure it's not too long, too short, or any of those type items. So we want our cars to still fall within those standard parameters. A good square. Squares are very important. This is what I'm going to use to test to make sure my axles are straight. You know, important there. I'm going to also use it to do my grooves so that when I set my tools on, they're precise. I want them 5/8 from the back, 5 to, and then in front of the axles, I want the front axles to be about 5 to 4 3/4, mattering on how you want to do that. Watch our video on the tips and tricks. This is a wheel plane or a wheel lathe. It allows me to go in here and I can plane the wheels flat, so there's no hops, which is kind of neat. It also gives me the option of being able to do some flattening if I have some of the cheaper wheels out there, and flatten up the hubs with different types and actually, you know, round the hubs on the older wheels if you got some of the older designed wheels. And then on this one, I can also put another tool to actually clean up the actual hub face. So really like this tool. Again, 50, 60 bucks. Not something, you know, I don't expect you to go out there and buy all the stuff the first year. Now, as you're getting more and more into it, it might be something, especially if you're getting into more of the adult type racing. There is adult racing out there. This tool I really enjoy. It is a tool that grips. It has little grooves in the front and grabs onto the wheel and allows me to twist the wheel back and forth. So especially when I'm putting wheels in and out, or putting axles in and out, that is really nice. And it also allows me to adjust my front wheel steer. So really like these, 20 bucks. You can, a lot of this stuff you can buy in kind of kits, or you can call them up and they'll send it to you all at once and give you a little better deal. A feeler gauge for doing gaps of the wheels. So this is to gap the wheel in between the wheel and the car. This one happens to be 30 thousandths. I use 30 thousandths because you can go all the way down to about 15 thousandths. Definitely 30 thousandths is a little bit of a safe bet, but it makes it so that wheel is not bouncing around. Another tool that's really nice is a wheel mandrel. This allows you to clean up the wheels. So when you put it in the drill, it allows you to be able to polish those wheels. Kind of going in conjunction with, these are cheap, couple bucks. This is a nail file. You can get at Ulta Beauty Supply if you want to look for them. You can buy them online too. They take a couple weeks to get there. This has 7 different steps of polishing, which is kind of real nice. You get it wet. You can just leave it in the water. What I like is I'm not having to hand a kid different types of sandpaper all the way through. I start out at 3, get all the sanding marks out, and I move to 4, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And I just keep doing it until I get that polish that I like. Remember, we're not trying to lighten the wheel, we're just trying to smooth it out so there's no up and down hops. Side to side is not as important as up and down hops. Up and down hops are what's going to slow you down. A decent ruler that's kind of a high calibration ruler that's going to be able to be really precise. This one will do 30 seconds and 60/4. Do you need it to be that perfect? I think so. So is that going to cost you a race if you don't have one? Probably not, but every little bit helps. Pipe cleaners. There's a bunch. Pipe cleaners are not all created equal. So a good quality pipe cleaner that's nice, this nice fuzzy cotton type style, not the ones you get at like your dollar store, they're real junk. Will those work? Yeah. But definitely something to think about. You want to make sure you're putting it through nice and easy and not scarring up the axle. And this is for cleaning the axles. So something to think about there. When we're polishing the inside of the axles, we use I think they're called Tiberius tips, and they're basically a pointed tip. You split it in half, put it in the drill, run it for 5 seconds, and that cleans out the bore, with a little bore polish. But after you're done, you want to clean it out and make sure that you've wiped it down with alcohol. A little Dawn soap always helps get out that extra lube or extra polishing compound. This is my favorite tape on earth. I use this for everything. You'll see this, a lot of my test cars have this tape holding in the weights, and I usually put it across the bottom to hold in weights, or if I have to tape something, a weight on in the last second because our car's a little light. I usually always put my cars just a slight bit under the 5-ounce mark, or whatever your mark is. I usually put it about 4, 9, 6-ish is usually okay, and allows me to add a couple weights. It's really hard to take and add weights, or take away weight. It's a lot easier to add weight and then just tape it in at the last second. So this is just ductwork tape. I always keep a roll of that around. Good quality graphite. I'm a big fan of graphite. My favorites are definitely the Maximum Velocity. I've won lots of races with that, and then the Derby Dad for Hire stuff, which is really good. And then the last thing would be a pin gauge. This is not a necessity by any means, but what this allows you to do is put it in the car, and allows you to have a longer gauge, so with it, when you're doing your test running, the wheels have a way to go back and forth, and these are precisely done. So you know that your drill, your angles are very precise. So that's kind of the tools some of these are not, you don't need certain things. If you have a drill press, a lot of this can be done on a drill press. That allows you to be able to polish the wheels. If you have a wheel mandrel on a drill press and you put a block of wood with a piece of sandpaper up there, you can get these wheels pretty darn perfectly sanded. If you've got a drill press, do you need this guy here where you can actually sit there, you can just set the drill press at 3 degrees, and if you're willing to spend the time and do the work, it works just as good. Bending axles, is that a necessity? No, you just take it and you put it between 2 nails and you pound it in the center and you're done. There's all kinds of videos out there that show you how to bend axles without the tools. These tools are to make your life a little easier, especially if you have 2 or 3 kids and building a bunch of cars, and to build consistent cars. We usually build about 4 cars a year, and that allows us to build consistent cars, race them all, and find the one that's the fastest. So as always, this is Black Bear Prepper, and I hope you enjoyed our video. Please subscribe and post comments on the bottom and tell us what you like or what you'd like to see next.